I want to ask you this. A lot of people who are going to watch this will be Indians. So if you are a 20-year-old Indian watching this on YouTube, what advice do you, Balaji, have for him or her?
So if you are of a technical mindset, learn computer science and statistics. Okay. Why those two? Because that's upstream of programming and data science, and that allows you to operate in any field. Okay. You can go into airlines, and airlines, they have data structures on flights and passengers and so on. And they have algorithms that process those, and they'll collect data, and then you'll analyze that with stats, right? You could go into a totally different space. You could go into, retail or something like that. Okay. And you're going to have SKUs like shopping cart, numbers and, or let's say stock keeping units, right?
Your fungible set of skills or jobs that you can go like parlay.
That's right.
Into.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Because every area now has algorithms and has data structures. So it needs computer science and needs statistics. This is the skill set that is to our period what physics was to the early 20th century. Like the physicists could go in to all of these previously sort of phenomenological organizations, like kick in the door and like write down some basic equations and systematize it. Luria and Delbruck famously did this with biology. They just counted things where people hadn't counted before. And then that kind of all changed with disciplinary fragmentation the second half of the 20th century. But now it's kind of come back. And because much of our life, right, much of what we're doing is looking at screens all the time.
Yeah.
Right. How much of your life is spent looking at a screen, Sriram? What percentage of waking hours?
No comment, right?
All right.
There's some topics we will not discuss.
Some topics we will not discuss. Okay. So, but for many people, it's like more than 50% of their waking hours are spent looking at a screen. So while I believe in physics, while I do think you should know physics and chemistry and biology, that's still important. All the transhumanism stuff requires that. More and more of human experience will be within digitally constructed worlds. And those worlds are, the metaverse stuff, the AR, all of that is constructed by computer science and stats, right? So on the technically inclined side, that's what I'd say. Okay. If you're on the verbally or artistically inclined side,
you're a word still, not a shape rotator.
Yeah. Though, of course, you should be both, right? Like you should, develop some talent skills, right? So let me see if I can phrase this the right way. Some people choose when they have access to the global internet and they have access to all of these people who are online, like, all these investors and CEOs and, like managers and so on, to troll them. Okay. Some people choose to do this. Why? Because it gets attention. It gets a rise.
I think that's where the sentence was going.
Yeah. I don't. Okay.
Why? So some people choose to do that. I would advise not doing that, and instead, like, because it's almost like like a little boy in school likes a girl and punches her, to show that he likes her or something. Like often people do this. Like Paul Graham has written that sometimes your biggest fans can be your biggest haters or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So my point is that if you are of a verbal bent, rather than trolling people on social media, which will get likes, that's the reason people do it. Right? Just attacking and being cynical and so on and so forth. Instead, try to figure out, I know this sounds cliche, but it's actually it's really not. Try to figure out how to add value. Okay. What does that mean? Basically, write content. And so you can start by writing even just a simple blog post or something like that. That is, you want to break into some field. Okay. Or you want to get the attention of some person. Write something that is potentially of value to them. Now, this is very counterintuitive because, if you're young, you might be like, oh, this investor is super rich. Why do they need any more value? Why am I adding value to them, et cetera? But the thing is that quote rich guy has 100 or 1,000 people asking them for money on like a daily basis constantly, right? So like, okay, of course it's their job or whatever, but it's like if they said yes to everybody, they would have no money, right? So the person who has something in their inbox saying, oh, here's a graph of something that I thought you might like, or here's a program I wrote that does X, Y, and Z, or here's, you were talking about India, here's some, new graphs from the Economic Survey of India. I'm not saying, by the way, kids who are watching this, don't do this exactly thing to me or whatever, but just as a concept, right?
Balaji's going to get a bunch of inbound graphs. By the way, I think, I think one of the most valuable things that anybody can give another human being is a new model or a framework to look at the world.
Yeah.
And if and I think if you are that person who, and Balaji, and I think it has been the originator of more than one for me personally. And if you can actually give somebody a piece of signal or give somebody a framework, a 2x2 graph or a Wikipedia page, which makes you go, right? That is incredibly, incredibly valuable.
Yes, I agree. And those new models, they shape how you kind of sort and process information, right? That's why, but to return to your point, so for the verbally inclined, that's the first step. But then here's the second step. I mentioned this about 18 months ago, but it's already, I think, really starting to play out. You know how India for a long time, maybe still to some extent, has China envy and like US admiration or US envy, right? Like India would copy China and China would copy the US or whatever. And everyone's kind of behind for like last 20 years, kind of being like that, right? I think now that the US is like much less admirable, China's not copying the US anymore. It's kind of going its own direction. And India actually can also go its own direction in some ways. And one of the things I think is a very important thing for the verbally inclined or artistically inclined in India is to realize that India can, and I think will, become a media superpower. Now, when I said this 18 months ago, people thought, they're like, dude, I like Bollywood, but come on, let's be realistic, right? Like it's not gonna beat Hollywood or whatever anytime. So come on, let's be real. And I'm not talking about Bollywood. Bollywood is fine, but I'm talking about what comes after that, right? So the thing is that this, in the same way that China ascended from making plastic stuff at Walmart to going up the value chain to like assembling iPhones, and now they're doing the entire thing for cutting edge drones and electric cars, and they're competitive in everything, right? And India has ascended the value chain from Java body shops doing like Y2K coding, 12 hours, on an offset to software consultancy, Tata type stuff, to now actually being number 3 in tech unicorns. In media, the sophistication and acculturation with the West is going to mean the potential for what I think of as a bright sun to the West's black mirror. Because
Great line. Great line.
So India is ascending with technology. It's the ascending world. And, Brooklyn's wokest are the descending world. And it's not rich for...
What's a good example of that? Like when you say ascension in the context of media in India, what does that mean?
I think I have an example here. I think Balaji said not Bollywood, but actually, if you look at the last year, there have been these huge...
RRR.
I was going to say RRR. Right? I was like, RRR is kind of this huge Indian blockbuster. If you're not watched it, go check it out. I think it's on Netflix or any streaming service, and it is this huge hit. Hollywood style budgets, and it's kind of like it's kind of like how South Korea has kind of seen this cultural resurgence with things like Squid Game and Parasite, but India is also seeing this with RRR and a bunch of other movies. So that is the example I was going to use.
So I'm not saying that. I mean, so first of all,